Hi guys, we're often asked by new RVers what to do when the weather is going to be below 32 degrees.
Here's our 8 tips for full-time RVing when the temperature dips below freezing.
Be sure to watch the very end, we've got a lot of great tips packed into this video. Tip number 1 is to unhook and drain your water hoses.
When camping in the cold weather, leaving your water hoses hooked up to the water spigot can cause some major problems. We recommend draining your water hoses and storing them in the basement or storage compartment of your trailer.
An alternative to having to drain your hose is getting a heated water hose. This is what we've done for the past 2 winters and it's worked out really great. There's different hoses that you can get depending on how cold the area is going to be where you're camping at, and we will link our favorites down in the description box below.
You can also use heat tape on your water spigot, or some people wrap their water hoses in heat tape as well to keep them from freezing. Tip number 2 is to disconnect all water filters and bring them indoors or in the basement of the trailer.
When we first started RVing, we made the mistake of leaving our water filters out overnight when it froze and they busted and had to be completely replaced.
If you find yourself camping in cold weather, we've found that it's best to bring any water filters that you have either inside and put them in the sink or the shower, or store them in the basement in a tub after you've drained them.
You should do this regardless of what brand your RV water filter is. They all bust and break, so bring them all in. We personally use the ClearSource triple canister water filtration system for our rig. It filters all of our water before it even enters the RV. If you're interested in learning more about that system, you can check out the link in the description box below, and you can use our code TuckNae25 for $25 off of any ClearSource water filter system. Tip number 3 for camping in cold weather is to run a dehumidifier, and this helps fight condensation.
When camping in cold weather, you may have noticed that the heat on the inside of your trailer versus the cold on your windows causes condensation. This can cause damage to your windows or to your trailer, sometimes causing mold or even cracking in the windows.
We'll link the dehumidifier that we use down in the description box below. It's always amazing to us to see how fast the water accumulates. We dump ours multiple times a day.
If you don't have the space in your trailer or don't want to buy a dehumidifier, you can use what's called damp rid. We get these at Walmart throughout your trailer in various spots. We keep them under sinks, next to the washer dryer. It just collects the extra moisture in the air, and they're disposable as well.
Comment below and let us know if you prefer running a dehumidifier or using damp rid, or maybe both.
Tip number 4 is to partially fill your freshwater tank and turn on the tank heaters. We fill our freshwater tank about 3/4 of the way full. That way, if it were to accidentally freeze, since water expands, it won't bust.
Also, if you have tank heaters on your RV, don't forget to switch those on. This will help keep the tanks warm and prevent them from freezing and busting. Tip number 5 is to leave a few of your faucets on drip. The reason for doing this is that the water is less likely to freeze up if it's actively moving, so having a little bit of water flowing through your pipes can keep it from freezing. We usually leave the kitchen faucet and 1 or 2 of the bathroom faucets on drip overnight especially.
Also, you never want to leave your sewer hose connected or open, otherwise it can cause freezing.
Obviously, if you're leaving your sinks on drip, you do need to keep an eye on your gray tanks, make sure that they're not getting too full. If you're going to be gone for any amount of time from your RV, I do not recommend leaving your sinks on drip. If they back up for some reason, you could end up with some pretty ugly water damage throughout your rig from sinks overflowing and things like that, so it's just not worth the risk. So definitely keep an eye on your gray tanks if you're going to do this.
Tip number 6 is to leave your cabinet doors under your sinks open, at least at night.
If you've ever opened up a cabinet door in winter and noticed the temperature difference from underneath the cabinet and the air outside of it, that's what we're talking about here. If you leave the doors open, it helps keep that temperature regulated and can keep the pipes underneath of your sinks from freezing and possibly busting.
We've also found that having the cabinet doors open helps cut down on the amount of condensation under the sink. We also put damp rids under our sink, in the kitchen, and in the bathrooms as well.
Next up is tip number 7, but before we get to that, don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful so far.
Tip number 7 is to run your furnace and to supplement with space heaters when possible.
We've been RVing for almost 4 years now and have spent almost every winter in pretty cold places.
We purchased 2 space heaters to try to cut down on propane costs. Full-time RVers can definitely understand that propane bills rack up during the winter. If you can supplement with electric space heaters, it does help save on the cost.
Our mistake at first was that we tried to rely too much on the space heaters. They kept the RV toasty warm, and we figured, hey, why not save on propane? So we cut down on using the furnace pretty much at all, and we found out pretty quickly that you can't do that. Reason being is that the furnace helps regulate the temperature throughout the entire rig, including the underbelly where the pipes are and all of that. And the space heaters were just keeping where we were at warm, so everything froze up.
With that being said, we do recommend getting a couple of electric space heaters depending on your rig size. We also have an electric fireplace in our rig that we use, but don't forget that is supplemental heat during the winter. You do need to rely mostly on your furnace to help keep the underbelly and the entire rig warmed up to prevent freezing.
Tip number 8 is to add RV skirting to your rig. If you're living stationary in your RV over winter and you aren't moving a whole lot, adding RV skirting can really help. There's a lot of different kinds of skirting. Some people use foam board, others use vinyl, and there's even more options besides that, but we chose to use the vinyl skirting on our rig.
Even if you live in a Four Seasons trailer, you do chance having your underbelly freeze because of the wind blowing underneath the trailer. The wind chill factor just gets to the trailer and can freeze things up. So we use vinyl billboard skirting all around the trailer, and that way we're able to regulate better the temperature under there and keep it above freezing most of the time.
Last year we went the entire winter without our tanks or lines or anything freezing up even once due to the RV skirting that we put on. It really made a huge difference for us. We put monitors throughout the underneath of the RV and in the underbelly and in the RV so that we can know what the temperature is at all times, and it really just gives us peace of mind. And it's incredible to see the difference in temperature when it's sub-zero outside and there's tons of snow, but yet underneath of the RV is still above freezing.
Although there is an upfront cost having to invest in the skirting, the tape, everything you use to put your skirting on, it will help pay for itself in the long run by cutting down on propane and electric costs.
Next up, be sure to watch our video about how to DIY your own RV skirting. We go over our tips, cost, materials needed, the lessons that we learned along the way, all of that. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.